Hello everyone. Myself Sanat Kumar Swai, Assistant Professor at Vedang Institute of Technology, Bhubaneswar. Hope you are all doing well, and I wish that you all had a safe Diwali. Okay. So coming back to the classes, in today's class we'll be discussing about the organizational culture. Okay. So what exactly is the organizational culture? I mean, uh, why do we need to understand the organizational culture? Okay, whether that understanding culture is important in a organizational point of view. So we'll be going through few slides and we'll see the importance of organizational culture, right. So going through the definition, what is organizational culture? What do you mean by organizational culture? It is a collective values, beliefs, behaviors, and norms that shape the social and psychological environment of an organization. So, whichever organization you work for, you'll see that every organization has got a unique culture of its own. And how does that culture come into play? Because we have a collective values. Because in an organization, you will see that there are a lot of employees from different background, from different social background, from different cultural background. They come together and they work together. Sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, you'll see that there are collective values. We have our own shared collective values in that particular organization. Whatever beliefs pattern we have, okay, our behavioral patterns and our norms. So all this constitute to be the social and psychological environment that creates the basis of the social environment and the psychological environment of that particular organization, right. Now, it also influences how employees interact, make decisions, and approaches in their work. So, how do we interact while working in an organization? How do we interact? How do we make various kinds of decisions? Are we a part of that decision making process? If we are the part of the decision making process, what factors impact in the decision making process? What is the approach? What is our approach towards the work, towards our work? So, this all influences the organizational culture. Now, why is uh, an organizational culture is important? Because if we are having a strong organizational culture, okay, if you are having a strong organizational culture, there are weak organizational cultures are also there. So if we are having a strong organizational culture, what that happens is that it fosters unity and motivation, and it also guides towards the common goal. So as see, when we are working in an organization, we have a common goal: increased productivity, enhancement of productivity, growth of that organization. Yes or no? So we have our common goal. It's not our personal goal. While working in an organization, we have our organizational, I mean, a common goal. So those common goals, how that can come into play? If we have a strong organizational culture, because that is going to motivate, or that's going to foster various kinds of unity. We have a unity in our organization. We have motivation in our organization, and these guides every one of us towards the common goal, right? Right. So, what is the importance? Importance means a positive organizational culture uh, enhances employee satisfaction. If we are working in an organization where you will see that there is a positive organizational culture, so what happens that we have, like, our satisfaction, it becomes 100%. Okay. How? By creating a supportive and motivating work environment. If there's a supportive work environment, if there's a motivating work environment, how you're going to get the motivation from in our work environment? Through the leadership. If the leadership is motivating, or they are creating a motivating work environment, then definitely that is going to create a positive and organizational culture, and subsequently that is going to motivate us, and that's going to create a more employee satisfaction. And if the employees are satisfied, then what happens that leads to higher retention rate. You see, these days companies are struggling to retain their employees, but they are unable to do so. If employees jump from one company to another, why do they do that? Because when they feel neglected, when they feel that they are not being motivated, or they do not get enough employee satisfaction, what they do, they jump to, or they switch over to other companies. So what happens is that if we are creating a supportive environment, if we are creating a motivating environment, then that is going to lead higher retention rate. People are not going to move anywhere, they're going to stay with you forever. So this employee, they feel valued. Yes, there is certain values. I have certain value in the particular organization. Okay, and it reduces the turnover of retention rate. Okay. Next, it also boosts productivity by fostering collaboration, trust, and commitment. Okay. When we have collaborative environment, when we have trust, if there is no trust deficit, or we have a commitment, then what happens that all the organization goals are being achieved. We okay, that gets a boost up in the organization goal, right? Now, if you're coming back to the Indian context, so if you're looking at the Indian scenario particularly, why we talk about Indian scenario? Because it becomes easier for us to compare with the Indian scenario and with the multinational scenario. So we need to understand what exactly is the Indian context all about. Okay, particularly in the business environment. Okay, so in the Indian context, if we see, creating a positive culture in India is crucial due to its diverse cultural background. Obviously, we have a diversified cultural background. Okay, India is a massive unity in diversity, which we say. Okay, culturally we are very diverse and very vast. Okay, so with this vast cultural background, okay, we need to understand that there will be certain differences. Okay, there will be certain differences. There will be certain cultural classes. Okay, what we have to do is that we have to blend our traditional values with what the modern expectations. Okay, we cannot ignore one. We cannot leave our tradition. We cannot leave the expectation, modern expectation. So we have to create a blend of both. Okay, so what happens is that that helps bridge gaps between the varied perspective, fostering inclusion and unity. So it fosters the inclusion and it fosters the unity as well. Okay, next, a positive culture also aligns diverse workforce value, promoting harmony and engagement in the across the organization. So within the organization also, it also reinforces the workforce values. It also promotes various kinds of harmony, okay, and engagement across the organization. Okay, so that is why we can say that the positive work culture is very much important, particularly in the Indian context, right? And what is a positive organizational culture? Like, for example, what are the characteristics? Okay, so characteristics are that transparency. You need to have transparency in the organization. You need to have trust in the organization. You need to have respect and collaboration. So these are the few characteristics which are very much important if we want to foster the organizational positive organizational culture in any organization, right? Right. So how we are going to adapt to that organizational cultural change is that through service, through company goals, through business, through quality, through excellence, through customer, and through team and strategy. So these are the few, I mean, cultural change, how we are going to change the culture in the organizational cultural change. Yeah? Okay. So again, those are organizational change, particularly in the Indian context, how we are going to do that is that the positive culture in Indian workplace, it reduces attrition by creating a sense of belonging and respect among employees. So when we feel respected, when we feel that there is a positive culture in the workplace, so what it does that there is a attrition reduction in the attrition. How that we have a sense of belonging, we have a sense of respect. Okay, and that encourages that we are being committed to that organization for a long term basis. Okay, next, it also foster a harmonious environment, that yes, I am understood, I am valued, my work has been taken into consideration. Okay, so what happens, there is the conflict, okay, it has been reduced, or that has been resolved in a much better way. Okay, next, this supportive culture in turn enhances collaboration and productivity. So when there is a collaboration and productivity, then definitely these kinds of positive culture, that is going to benefit the organization, the growth of the organization, the goals and objectives of the organization in the long run. Yeah. Now, importance of positive culture in Indian organization. So what are the importance of positive culture in Indian organization? The first one is like improve employee morale. Okay, if we don't have employee morale, then some or the other will see that we are being demotivated. Okay, so we need to have a boost in the employee morale. So how what happens if there is an employee morale, I mean improvement in the employee morale, is that it creates an environment where employees feel valued. So if we are not valued in any organization, that is going to affect our morale, and if our morale gets affected, so definitely the productivity level goes down. Okay, next, enhances reputation. How that enhances reputation? Because when we are building a positive brand image, then what happens is that say, for example, Apple, nobody knew Apple in couple of years time, but now Apple is a brand. So that reputation is, it has built for itself. Okay, so what happens when there's a reputation comes into play, that attracts top talent. The talent pool goes up. Talent pool, it goes up. Okay, so by I mean upgrading and implementing the positive culture in this organization, uh, it enhances the reputation. Okay. Next, it increases productivity. Definitely, when our employees are motivated, okay, then what we'll do, will give our best. Okay, so when we are giving our best, definitely at the productivity level also goes up. Okay, so example like organization like Infosys or Tata. Okay, so what they have a positive world culture in their organization. Okay, and they also try to implement various kinds of friendly policies in their organization, so that the positive culture is always intact in in their organizations. Right. Next, key elements of positive organizational culture. What are the key elements of positive organization culture? Okay, how we are going to, then which elements impact the positive organizational culture? The first one is like leadership style. What leadership style we are going to adopt in our organization, so that which plays an important which is a key element, and it plays an important role in the positive organizational culture. Okay, which shapes the positive culture. Okay, next, employee empowerment. Okay, employee empowerment, we need to empower our employees. Okay, and how we are going to empower our employee? Sometimes you see that we have to encourage the employee to take ownership. These days, when there is a uh, employees who are being absorbed as in the placement process, recruitment process, they are being given certain ownership in that particular organizations. Why do they give their ownership? Maybe 2%, 1%, 5%, 3% ownership are being given to the employees. Why do they do that? In certain projects, I'm not saying about the overall company, but in certain projects, they have been given like 1% or 2%, because that is going to create encouragement in the employees, and they will be empowered. And sometimes they also they ask them to be a part of the decision making process. Okay, next is recognition and rewards. Recognition, you need to recognize your employees contribution to that company, to that organization. Okay, and also if required you need to reward them. That may be financially, that may be some other way, but you have to recognize and reward them, okay, for their contribution. So that can be through formal or informal methods. That can be through formal methods by giving some, or that can be some informal methods as well. And the very important thing is that communication. Okay, you have to have a proper communication. Okay, a transparent communication has fosters a positive organization. That is one of the key element, important key element in the organization, positive organization culture. Right. So these are the few key elements in the positive organization culture. Next, leadership role. So what is the role of leadership in positive culture? Okay, so see the in the hierarchical process. Okay, uh, the leadership, that is the topmost level, if you can say. Okay, so what if there is any kind of transformation? Okay, then all the transformation is being done by the leadership. Okay, so what happens, the first one is that transformation leadership. Okay, so what kind of transformation leadership, what they do, they inspire and they motivate the employees. Okay, so that that drives the employees towards the growth of the organization, right? Next is servant leadership. Okay, servant leadership means you have a uh, trust building, you can say. You have a supportive environment. You have a people centric environment. You create those kind of environment. Okay, so that drives those employees to for a for a common goal or for the common organization goal. Next is ethical leadership. Now, what do you mean by ethical leadership? Ethical leadership means there's a fairness in the company, there's a fairness in the organizational structure. You value your culture, your values. You give importance to your values, your organizational values. Mutual respect is taken into consideration. Okay, so you are being ethical in the organizational structure or organizational positive culture. Right? So that is also one of the major leadership role. Right. So together these styles, they when these all the leadership roles comes into play, then that creates a cohesive workforce culture. Cohesive workforce culture means, what do you mean by cohesive workforce culture? Cohesive means like togetherness, we can say. Like we are like in a bonding, we can say. Okay. Togetherness, we feeling. There's a we feeling in the workforce culture. So the leadership plays a very important role in the positive culture. Right. Next, Indian example. So if we take an example, okay, of Ratan Tata's, I mean, late Ratan Tata. So he was an exemplary. Okay, he was an exemplary. Uh, you will see he had a lot of empathy towards his employees. Okay, and he had he had done a lot of work on the employee welfare activities. Okay, uh, not in no way it was unethical. I mean, he didn't go for any unethical means on unethical practices, but rather all the welfare activities which he initiated was all based on the ethical practices. Okay, he also had commitment to listening and understanding employees. He listened to his employees and he understood the employee in a most what we can say patient way he had. I mean, he was very much patient in listening and understanding the employees of his organization. Okay, and that fostered a sense of loyalty. That fosters a sense of trust with the organization, with the Tata. Okay. Next, the Tata's approach has cultivated supportive culture that aligns with employee well-being. So they had a supportive culture that your well-being is our well-being, your success is our success. When the employees are well, the organization is well. That constitutes the organizational success. If the employee is motivated and it is does the best, then that is going to increase the organizational success in the long run, right? So this is one of the example in the Indian perspective. So as you can see, the leadership role as what uh, late Ratan Tata has said, that if you want to walk fast, then you need to walk alone, because walking alone can make you walk faster. But if you want to walk far, then you walk together. If you're going to walk together, that may not be fast, but that is going to lead you, or that is going to take you to a far distance, okay, long distance. Okay. So this is one of the leadership quote of late Ratan Tata. Okay. Next is employee empowerment in Indian workplace. What do you mean by employee empowerment? How we are going to empower our employee in the in the workplaces. Okay. So what happens is that trust and autonomy. Sometimes you have to give trust and autonomy to your employee. You cannot always keep bouncing on your employees, okay, to check whether they are doing the work in a better way or not. Sometimes you have to trust, sometimes you have to give some certain autonomy to your employees, and that autonomy and trust is going to create, or the empowerment, or that is going to empower your employees, okay, that they will be taking the ownership of their work. Okay, whatever task they are being assigned to, they will take the ownership of the task, that yes, this I am responsible for this particular task, and I have the full autonomy, I have the full trust on this particular work. And what that will do is that is going to create creativity and innovation. So sometimes when they are being given the ownership of that particular work, then they will do that particular work in a most creative way and in a most innovative way. So that is going to lead to further innovation and creativity. Okay. So when employees feel trusted, they are more motivated to perform at their best, leading to higher productivity. Definitely. See, when you are being trusted that yes, this particular employee is going to do this particular task in the most efficient way, then what that employee is going to do is that they will feel that yes, they have been assigned this work and they are the owner of that particular task, and they will lead to work in the best possible way, and that is going to create more productivity. That's going to create a proper job satisfaction among the employees. So for example, companies like Wipro, they allow flexibility in project approach and encourage upskilling. So what happens is that once there is a project, I mean, particularly for a company like Wipro, uh, when there's a project, okay, there's a flexibility in the project, that as long as you are okay with the project, whatever you're doing, we don't have any problem. You can employ any kind of project approach, whatever you like, but we want the end result. So what happens in that is that encourages the upskill. So for example, if an employee thinks that yes, I for this particular project I need certain upgrading of this of certain skills, then they can do so. Okay, so there's a flexibility, there's a ownership of that particular project. Okay, so this is all about the employee empowerment in the Indian workspace. Recognition and reward system. So as we have already discussed in a few previous slide, that you have to recognize, you have to reward. There has to be certain system of recognition and reward. Okay, so why is it important? Because if you're not recognizing the task which has been done by the employer, you are not rewarding, there's no system of rewarding, then that is going to create a havoc. But if you recognize, if you have reward system, if you reward your employee for doing hard work, for exemplary work, then that is going to motivate your employee, that is going to strengthen a positive culture. A positive culture can be strengthened. For example, Infosys has got a reward program for exemplary work and innovation. So if you are working in an exemplary way, if you have certain innovative or certain creative way of doing a work, then they have a reward program for their particular project or particular work. Right. Communication in Indian organization. So communication is of utmost importance. You need to have proper communication. Okay. But there is a problem in the Indian organization, particularly. What happens that we have a hierarchical structure. Okay. And when there is a hierarchical structure, particularly in the Indian organization, the communication channels become extremely difficult. Okay. So sometimes we have to have an open communication channel, okay, so that the communication flows freely from the top to bottom or from the bottom to top. Sometimes, I mean, most of the time you'll see that from the top to the bottom, it is very much easy, pretty much easy. But from the lower to the top, that creates hurdles, and that creates a lot of problem because the channels have been blocked at certain places. So you need to have an open communication channel so that the communication flows freely. Okay. For example, Hindustan Unilever, they maintain transparent communication, very much essential. Okay, for any kind of organization. So if you take a case study of Tata's group positive organizational culture. So what happens at Tata's culture? So what are the values which Tata culture has created? Is that they have values like integrity, they have values like respect and customer centricity. Like they focus more on the customer. Okay, so this is all about the Tata's culture basically. Okay, any organization, maybe it, automobile industry, maybe it, info IT, information technology, okay, consulting, okay, whatsoever. Next example, Tata Steel employee welfare scheme like housing and education benefit. So what they do, they have various innovative welfare schemes like housing schemes, housing benefit. They have education support for their employees. So what happens in these kinds of culture, which positively impact the employees' well-being, that impacts the well-being in a much better way. Okay, so definitely the employee will cling to those organizations, and they're not going to leave that organization, and there will be a zero, I mean very less uh, impact on the retention rate, the employee retention, right? Benefit of a positive organizational culture in India. Okay, so what happens is that employee retention and loyalty, as I have already said, that the employee will be retained. They're not going to leave the organization very soon. Okay. Next, enhanced innovation and problem solving. So what happens is that the innovation level goes up. There is a enhanced innovation, and there is a problem solving attitude. I mean, the way the problems are being solved, it makes it has been done in a more smooth way. Cohesive teamwork. The teamwork has become cohesive. Like there's a we feeling, there's a bonding among the team to do the work. Okay. So, for example, Bajaj Auto, they also retain employees through a strong cultural focus and inclusive growth plans. So, they have a lot of inclusive growth plans. There are a lot of cultural focus through Bajaj Auto to retain their employees. This is one of the most important factors these days. Okay, the employees, they don't want to stay in a particular place or in one place in a one company, and they switch over. Okay, so it becomes extremely difficult for the organization these days to retain their employees, okay, or to get the better employees, right? Steps to build a positive culture. So what are the steps to build a positive culture? Okay, so first thing is that action for leader and HR. Okay, this is one of the most important thing that for the particularly for the leaders or for the HR. Okay, what they do is that we need to have training, proper training. We need to have feedback system. We need to be have diversity and inclusion programs. Okay, so proper training is very much essential if we have to build a positive culture. Without training, no positive culture can be built. Okay, feedback system, we need to have feedback system. If we are not getting feedback, whether it's a positive or negative feedback whatsoever, but if we are getting feedback, so based on the feedback, we can rebuild or we can re-innovate ourselves. Okay. Next, diversity and inclusion. So we need to have a diversity in our various inclusion programs. Okay. Next, challenges and building positive culture. So what are the challenges? Okay, challenges is that uh, cultural diversity. As I've already said, India is a multicultural, I mean, diversified country. So to manage those cultural diversity becomes extremely challenging to build a positive culture. Okay. Next is bridging generational expectation. You see, there are always two generations or three generations going simultaneously. Okay, you see, the younger generation particularly, they have different expectation. The middle-aged generation, they have different expectation, or the older people, they have different expectation. To breach those generational expectation becomes really a challenging aspect to build a positive culture in India. Okay. Next is hierarchical barriers. Sometimes there is a barrier in our hierarchy. So overcoming that hierarchy becomes also one of the major challenges in building any kind of positive culture. Okay. Now, what are the solutions? These are the challenges. Now, what are the solutions? Solution is that we need to promote diversity. Diversity is important. We have to promote diversity. Once there is a diversified workforce, and that minimize the problems. Okay. Next, train leaders. We need to train our leaders so that they are efficient enough to create positive culture in any organization. Okay. Next is encourage feedback loops. Okay. So feedback is important because that gives us the I mean chance to look at our loopholes. What are the loopholes and how we need to fill those loopholes. Okay. So these are the solutions, if you can say. Okay, so for example, Reliance Industry manages these challenges in its diverse workforce. See, Reliance is one of the major giant, and they have a they have a diversified uh, workforce in their organization. So with they manage this challenges with their diverse workforce in various different ways. Right. So with this, we have come to the end of the slide. Okay. So if we are going to summarize it, okay. So what is the summary? Importance of a positive culture, organizational culture for sustainable growth and employee satisfaction. So definitely, in order to have a positive organizational culture for a sustainable growth and employee satisfaction, we need to have a positive organizational culture is must for any kind of sustainable growth and employee satisfaction in any organization, right? Now, what is the future perspective? I mean, what do you future perspective? Future perspective is that uh, you see culture is being placed in a more better role these days. Okay, earlier we were not focused on more on culture, but these days you'll see that we are being more concerned about culture. So the companies which are concerned about culture building, okay, they are in a better position for for their success in the long run. Okay. So if we are quoting it, we'll say that a positive culture is the backbone of a thriving organization. Okay. A positive culture is the backbone of a thriving organization. If we don't have a positive culture, then definitely that organization is going to scatter in a few years' time. Okay, so nothing is going to happen. So if we need to understand that why there's an organization is thriving, then the 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 basis behind that thriving organization is a positive culture. Okay, okay. So with this, we have concluded. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you have all understood about this, about today's class. If you have any doubt, please leave your comments, and we will be more than happy to so, make you clear about your doubts. Okay. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.